Kyle Martinez sat in the back corner of the Galactic Council chamber, watching the alien delegates argue about trade routes and mining rights. His chair was smaller than the others, made for human size in a room built for creatures twice as tall. Most days, the other species forgot he was even there. The Zephyrian delegate stood up, his blue skin gleaming under the chamber lights. "The Outer Rim territories need stronger protection," he said, his voice booming across the room. "These primitive species keep causing problems for our merchant ships." Kyle kept his face blank. He had learned long ago not to react when they talked about primitive species. The aliens in this room had decided 50 years ago that humans were the most primitive of all. "What about the mining rights on Kepler 442? Asked the Altarian representative. Her forearms moved as she spoke, gesturing at the holographic star map floating above the council table. "My people discovered those mineral deposits first." "Your people discovered nothing," snapped the Chronarch General. His thick armored hide made clicking sounds as he shifted in his seat. "Our scouts mapped that system months before your ships arrived." Kyle pulled out his datapad and pretended to read reports. He did this every day, sitting quietly while the galaxy's most powerful species argued about who owned what. They treated him like a museum piece, something interesting to look at but not worth talking to. The human homeworld was gone. Earth had been destroyed when Kyle was still young, turned into floating rocks and dust by weapons that could crack planets. The official story was that it had been an accident, a terraforming project that went wrong. Kyle knew better, but he never said so out loud. "The Chronarch Empire will take control of the disputed systems," the general continued. "We have the military strength to keep order there." Other delegates started shouting at once. The tall, insect-like Vextai clicked their mandibles in anger. The gaseous nebulon shifted colors from blue to angry red. The chamber filled with noise as different species argued in their own languages. Kyle had been coming to these meetings for 23 years. In all that time, none of them had ever asked for his opinion about anything important. Sometimes they would ask him about human history or culture, like he was a living textbook. Most of the time, they ignored him completely. His datapad buzzed with an incoming message. Kyle glanced at it, expecting another routine update from the few human colonies that still existed. Instead, he saw something that made his heart skip a beat. The message was short, just a few words on a frequency that should not have existed anymore. It was an old Earth military code, one that had been classified long before the planet died. Kyle stared at the screen, reading the same words over and over. "Phoenix Protocol activated. Time to come home." Kyle's hands shook slightly as he closed the datapad. He looked around the chamber, but none of the arguing aliens had noticed anything. They were too busy fighting over territory and resources to pay attention to the lone human in the corner. The Phoenix Protocol was something Kyle had not thought about in decades. It was a plan that had been made in secret, back when Earth still existed and humans were expanding across the galaxy. Most people had thought it was just a theory, a backup plan that would never be needed. Kyle had been wrong about that, just like he had been wrong about many things. "The mining operations will proceed as scheduled," the Altarian delegate was saying. "We have legal claim to those systems under the Galactic Commerce Treaty." "Legal claims mean nothing without the power to enforce them," the Chronarch General replied. His voice had a threatening edge that made several smaller species shift nervously in their seats. Kyle stood up slowly, trying not to draw attention to himself. He had become very good at being invisible over the years. It was a skill that had kept him alive when other humans had not been so lucky. "Ambassador Martinez," called the council speaker, a tall being with gray skin and too many eyes. "Are you leaving us early today?" The chamber fell quiet. All the alien delegates turned to look at Kyle, their various forms of eyes focusing on him. He felt like a small animal being watched by predators. "I have some administrative work to complete," Kyle said in his most neutral voice. "Human colony reports." The speaker nodded dismissively. "Of course, the few scattered settlements you people still maintain. How many are there now? A dozen? Less? 17 colonies," Kyle replied. "Small ones." "Such a shame," said the Zephyrian delegate, shaking his large head. Humans used to be so numerous, before the accident, of course. Kyle nodded politely. Yes, before the accident. He walked toward the exit, moving slowly so he would not seem rushed. Behind him, the aliens returned to their arguments about territory and trade. They had already forgotten about him again. The corridors outside the council chamber were busy with beings from dozens of different species. Kyle moved through the crowd like a ghost, just another face among thousands. He had perfected this skill, over the years the ability to be present but not noticed. His datapad buzzed again. Another message on the same impossible frequency. Confirm receipt. Await further instructions. Kyle stepped into an empty side corridor and activated the reply function. His fingers hesitated over the keys. If he responded to this message, everything would change. The quiet life he had built for himself would be over, but that life had been built on a lie anyway. The galaxy thought humans were broken, scattered, and harmless. They thought the few survivors were nothing more than refugees clinging to the memory of a dead world. Kyle typed his response and sent it before he could change his mind. Message received. Ready to proceed. He put the datapad away and continued, walking toward his small apartment in the diplomatic quarter. Tomorrow he would return to the council chamber and sit in his corner seat, listening to aliens argue about things they thought humans could never understand. But first, he had preparations to make. The Phoenix Protocol was more than just a plan. It was a promise that had been made 50 years ago, when Earth burned and humans scattered across the stars. The galaxy was about to learn that some promises take a long time to keep, but they are kept nonetheless. Kyle left Nexus Prime 3 days later on a routine transport ship, heading to the Outer Rim. He told the Council he was visiting human colonies to file his quarterly reports. None of the alien delegates cared enough to ask questions. They never did. The transport was crowded with merchants, miners, and laborers from a dozen different species. Kyle sat in the cargo section with the cheapest seats, reading reports on his datapad. To anyone watching, he looked like a boring government worker doing paperwork, but Kyle was not reading colony reports. He was studying star charts and shipping schedules, memorizing routes and timing. After 50 years of practice, he had become very good at looking harmless while planning something else entirely. The ship made stops at 4 different stations before reaching asteroid base Omega-7. Kyle got off with the other passengers, carrying only a small travel bag. The base was a rough place, built inside a hollowed-out asteroid that spun slowly to create artificial gravity. Smugglers, pirates, and outcasts from across the galaxy came here to do business that was not legal elsewhere. Kyle walked through the main corridor, past bars and shops that sold things no civilized world would allow. The air smelled like engine fuel and unwashed bodies. Creatures with too many teeth or not enough skin watched him pass, but nobody bothered him. He had learned to move like someone who belonged in places like this. He found the cantina he was looking for in the deepest part of the base. The sign outside was written in 6 different languages, none of them advertising what really went on inside. Kyle pushed through the door and stepped into a room full of smoke and loud music. Lisa Carter was sitting at a corner table, drinking something that glowed blue in her glass. She looked like any other human refugee, wearing old clothes and keeping her head down. But Kyle knew better. Lisa ran one of the most sophisticated intelligence networks in the galaxy. Kyle sat down across from her without being invited. "You got my message," he said quietly. Lisa nodded once. "Phoenix Protocol." I never thought I would hear those words again. None of us did, but here we are. Lisa looked around the cantina, making sure nobody was listening. Then she leaned forward and spoke in a voice so low that Kyle could barely hear her over the music. "How many do you think are left?" she asked. "More than they know," Kyle replied. "How many more than they know?" Lisa smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, scattered across hundreds of worlds, working jobs they think are beneath notice." Kyle felt something tight in his chest loosen for the first time in years. The plan worked. The plan worked perfectly. Too perfectly, maybe. Lisa activated a small device that created a privacy field around their table. Now they could speak, freely without being overheard. "Tell me," Kyle said. Lisa pulled out her own datapad and began showing him files. Photos of humans working in factories, offices, spaceports, and government buildings. Men and women who looked ordinary, unremarkable. People who had learned to blend in so well that they had become invisible. "Dan Murphy is still alive," Lisa said. "He runs a recycling plant on Vega Station. Been there for 15 years. The plant processes waste from 12 different star systems." Kyle understood immediately. He sees everything that comes and goes. Everything. Every ship. Every cargo manifest. Every passenger list. The Vegan authorities think he is just a waste management supervisor. They have no idea he has been mapping their entire supply chain for over a decade. Lisa flipped to another file. Amy Peterson works as a translator for the Zephyrian Trade Commission. She has been present at every major negotiation for the past 8 years. She knows their economic plans, their military budgets, their strategic weaknesses, and they trust her because she is just a harmless human who needs the work. Exactly. She even married a Zephyrian diplomat. They think she is completely assimilated. Kyle shook his head in amazement. How many others? Tony Rodriguez has been maintaining life support systems on 37 different worlds. Jake Wilson runs security for a Chronarch military contractor. Nicole Brooks is the chief engineer on a deep space research station. Steve Adams coordinates shipping schedules for the largest freight company in the galaxy. Lisa kept showing him files. Hundreds of them. Humans who had spent decades building lives, families, and careers while secretly gathering information and waiting for orders that might never come. "They all know about Phoenix Protocol?" Kyle asked. "Every single one. It was part of their training before they left. Stay hidden, stay useful, stay ready. Most of them have children now, human children who grew up thinking their parents were just ordinary workers." "What about the children?" "Some know the truth. Others do not. It depends on the situation." Lisa closed her datapad and looked directly at Kyle. "What changed? Why activate the protocol now?" Kyle told her about the message frequency that should not have existed, about the coded signals that had been transmitted across the galaxy on old Earth military channels, about the growing reports of missing Chronarch outposts and unexplained equipment failures. "Someone else is making moves," he said. "Someone with access to old human military codes and the ability to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems." Lisa was quiet for a long moment. "There were other groups," she said finally. "Other evacuation plans that were classified above my level. I always wondered what happened to them. Looks like we are about to find out." Lisa finished her drink and stood up. "I need to send some messages. If Phoenix Protocol is active, my people need to know. Some of them have been in deep cover for so long they might not remember how to be anything else." Kyle stood as well. "What about you? What have you been doing for 50 years? Lisa smiled again, and this time there was something dangerous in it. "I run a shipping company. Small operation, nothing fancy. But my ships go everywhere in the galaxy, and my pilots talk to everyone. I know which species are planning wars, which governments are about to fall, and which trade routes are going to be profitable next year. And nobody suspects? Why would they? I am just another human trying to make a living in a galaxy that barely tolerates my existence." Lisa paused, at the door. "Where are you going next?" "Back to Nexus Prime. I still have a job to do at the Council. Be careful, Kyle. If other groups are making moves, the aliens are going to start asking questions. Our cover stories might not hold up under real scrutiny." Kyle nodded. "I know. But someone needs to watch the Council, to see how they react. When they figure out what is happening." Lisa left first, disappearing into the crowd outside the cantina. Kyle waited 10 minutes before following her, taking a different route back to the transport docks. As he walked through the corridors of Omega-7, Kyle thought about the files Lisa had shown him. Thousands of humans, living quiet lives and raising families while secretly preparing for a day that might never come. That day had finally arrived. After 50 years of waiting, the scattered children of Earth were waking up. General Thack stood in the command center of the Kronark military headquarters, staring at the holographic display that showed their outer rim territories. Red markers indicated outposts that had gone silent over the past month. There were 17 of them now. "Show me the timeline again," Thax ordered his aide, a younger Kronark named Vect. The hologram shifted, displaying dates and times. "The first outpost went dark 28 days ago," Vect reported. "Outpost Zeta 3 on the edge of the Kepler system. No distress signal, no emergency beacon, just silence." "Equipment failure," Thax muttered, though he no longer believed it. Then, "Outpost Theta 7 went silent 6 days later. Same pattern. No warning, no communication, just empty space where our people used to be." Thakex watched as more red markers appeared on the display, following the timeline of disappearances. The attacks, if they were attacks, were moving in a clear pattern across their territory. Someone was hunting Kronark outposts with purpose and planning. "Have we recovered any wreckage?" Thax asked. "That is the strange part, General. There is no wreckage. The outposts are not destroyed, they are just empty. All equipment is still there, all systems are still running, but the personnel are gone." Thax felt his armored hide crawl with unease. The Kronark Empire was the most feared military force in the galaxy. Their soldiers were trained from birth to fight and die for the Empire. They did not simply vanish without a trace. "What about security recordings?" Vect looked uncomfortable. "That is what I wanted to show you, General. We recovered partial footage from Outpost Kappa 9 before it went dark yesterday." The hologram changed to show grainy security footage from inside a Kronark military facility. Thax could see Kronark soldiers at their posts, following normal routines. Everything looked normal until the timestamp showed 23:47 local time. The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting red shadows throughout the corridors. Alarms should have been blaring, but the footage was silent. Thakex realized the intruders had disabled the audio systems first. Dark figures moved through the outpost like ghosts. They wore black combat gear and moved with military precision, but something about them seemed wrong. They were too small, too quick, not like any species Thax recognized. "Enhance Sector 7, Thax commanded. The image zoomed in on one of the intruders. What Thax saw made his blood freeze in his veins. The figure was human. "That is impossible," Vect whispered. "Humans are extinct. Humans are refugees," Thax corrected automatically. "Scattered survivors with no military capability." But the figure on the screen moved like a professional soldier. He used hand signals that Thax recognized as military tactical codes. The human placed explosive charges on critical systems with the expertise of someone who knew exactly how Kronark technology worked. More humans appeared in the footage. A team of 8 individuals, all moving with perfect coordination. They knew where every guard would be, when every patrol would pass, how long they had before shift changes occurred. "How long did this take?" Thakis asked. 17 minutes from power failure to complete evacuation of personnel. No shots fired, no resistance encountered. Our soldiers were captured or eliminated without any of them being able to send a warning. Thax watched the footage again. The humans moved through the outpost like they had built it themselves. They knew every corridor, every system, every weakness. This was not a lucky raid by desperate survivors. This was professional military operation. "Where did they take our people?" Thax demanded. "We do not know, General. The humans had transport ships waiting in the asteroid field nearby. By the time our patrol vessels arrived, everyone was gone." Thax studied the tactical display, thinking hard. 17 outposts attacked over 28 days, all of them in remote locations, all of them lightly defended. The humans were testing Kronark responses, learning their procedures. "What kind of outposts were these?" he asked suddenly. Vect consulted his files. "Research facilities, mostly. Weapons testing, prototype development, classified projects. Show me the complete list." The hologram displayed detailed information about each lost outpost. Thax read through the data, his unease growing with each entry. These were not random targets. Every single facility had been involved in the development of weapons used against human colonies 50 years ago. Outpost Zeta-3 had tested the atmospheric processors that poisoned human worlds. Theta-7 had developed the orbital bombardment systems that cracked planets. Kappa-9 had been working on improvements to the same weapons that destroyed Earth itself. "This is not random piracy," Thax said, slowly. "This is targeted revenge. General, humans do not have the military capability for operations like this. Their homeworld was destroyed. Their colonies were scattered. They have no fleet, no army, no technology advanced enough to challenge our defenses." Thax looked at the footage again. The human soldiers were using equipment he did not recognize. Their weapons looked more advanced than anything in the Chronarch arsenal. Their tactical coordination was flawless. "Contact Intelligence Division," Thax ordered. "I want a complete review of human refugee populations across the galaxy. I want to know where they are, what they are doing, and who is organizing them." "Yes, General. Should we increase security at our remaining research facilities?" "Double the guard rotations. Install additional sensor arrays, and send word to the Galactic Council immediately." Vecht looked surprised. "The Council, General? Should we not handle this internally?" Thax pointed at the security footage still showing human soldiers moving through the Chronarch outpost with deadly efficiency. "This is bigger than one species problem, Vecht. If humans have the capability to conduct coordinated military operations across multiple star systems, then every species that participated in the destruction of their homeworld needs to know about it." He paused, thinking about the implications. "Contact the Zephyrians, the Altarians, and the Vexti. Tell them we need an emergency session. Tell them the humans are not as helpless as we thought." "What should we tell them exactly?" Thax looked at the red markers scattered across the display, each one representing a facility that had been taken by ghosts in human form. Soldiers who should not exist, using technology that should not be possible, carrying out missions with surgical precision. "Tell them we may have made a very serious mistake 50 years ago. We thought we eliminated the human threat. Instead, we may have created something much worse." The general turned away from the display and walked toward his private office. He had reports to write and emergency calls to make. The galaxy needed to know that the scattered, helpless human refugees were not what they seemed. But first, he had to figure out how to explain to his superiors that the mighty Chronarch Empire was being systematically dismantled by a species they thought was extinct. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began at dawn on Nexus Prime. Kyle Martinez sat in his usual corner seat, watching as alien delegates filed into the chamber with worried expressions on their faces. He had received no official notification about why the meeting was called, but he already knew. Council Speaker Morvex called the session to order with unusual urgency. "We have received disturbing reports from the Chronarch Empire," he announced. "General Thax will present evidence of what appears to be organized military action against Chronarch facilities." Kyle kept his face neutral as General Thax activated the main holographic display. The same security footage that had shocked the Chronarch military now played for the entire Galactic Council. Hushed whispers filled the chamber as delegates watched. Human soldiers moved through the outpost with deadly precision. This footage was recovered from Outpost Kappa-9 before it was evacuated, Thax explained. Similar attacks have occurred at 16 other facilities over the past month. All were conducted by human forces using advanced military equipment. The Zephyrian delegate jumped to his feet. "This is impossible. Humans have no military capability. Their homeworld was destroyed decades ago." "That is what we believed as well," Thax replied grimly. "But the evidence shows otherwise." Kyle watched the other delegates carefully. The species that had participated in Earth's destruction looked nervous. The Altarians were whispering among themselves in their clicking language. The Vexti representative was changing colors rapidly, which meant extreme agitation. "Ambassador Martinez," called Speaker Morvex suddenly. "You represent the human colonies. What do you know about these attacks?" Every eye in the chamber turned to Kyle. He had been preparing for this moment since he received the Phoenix Protocol message. He stood slowly, taking his time to look at each delegate before speaking. "I know that for 50 years, This council has treated humans as broken refugees, Kyle said quietly. You gave us small colonies on worthless worlds and expected us to be grateful. You made it clear that we existed only because of your mercy. That is not an answer to my question, Morvex said sharply. Kyle smiled, and several delegates shifted, uncomfortably in their seats. It was not a pleasant smile. You want to know if I knew about the attacks? Yes, I knew. You want to know if other humans are involved? Yes, they are. You want to know how many of us there really are? Far more than you ever imagined. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Delegates shouted questions and accusations in dozens of languages. Kyle remained standing, waiting for the noise to die down. How dare you sit in this chamber knowing about terrorist attacks? The Zephyrian delegate roared. Terrorist attacks? Kyle repeated slowly. Is that what we are calling them now? What did you call it when you destroyed Earth? What did you call it when you hunted down human colonies and slaughtered civilians? Was that terrorism, or was that just necessary policy? The destruction of Earth was an accident, the Altarian representative protested. A terraforming experiment that went wrong. Kyle laughed, and the sound echoed strangely in the large chamber. An accident, of course, just like it was an accident when Chronarch ships bombed the New Geneva colony. Just like it was an accident when Zephyrian forces poisoned the atmosphere of Kepler 438b. Just like it was an accident when Altarian mining ships destroyed the civilian evacuation fleet at Ross 128. The chamber fell silent. Kyle had just named specific military operations that were supposed to be classified. Operations that had never been officially acknowledged by any government. How do you know about those operations? General Thax demanded. Because humans remember everything, Kyle replied. We remember every colony you destroyed, every ship you sank, every civilian you murdered. We remember the names of our dead and the faces of those who killed them. He activated his own datapad and transmitted files to the chamber's main display. Documentation began scrolling across the hologram. Military orders, communication intercepts, battle reports, casualty lists. 50 years of evidence, Kyle said. Every crime, every cover-up, every lie you told the galaxy about what really happened to humanity. We have been collecting it all, waiting for the right moment to present it. The Vextai delegate clicked his mandibles nervously. Where did you get classified military documents? Kyle turned to look directly at the insect-like creature. From your own files. Did you really think we spent 50 years doing nothing? Did you think we just sat in our refugee camps feeling sorry for ourselves? You have been spying on us, accused the Nebulan representative, his gaseous form shifting to an angry red color. We have been working for you, Kyle corrected. Cleaning your offices, maintaining your ships, translating your documents, fixing your computers. For 50 years, humans have been doing the jobs you considered beneath your notice. And all that time we were watching, learning, and remembering. General Thax stood up abruptly. This is a confession of espionage and military action. You are admitting to crimes against the galactic community. Kyle looked at the Chronarch general with cold eyes. I am admitting to survival. You taught us that in this galaxy. Only the strong survive. You showed us that might makes right, and the weak deserve whatever happens to them. We learned those lessons very well. What do you want? Speaker Morvex asked quietly. Justice, Kyle replied. For 50 years, this council has pretended that the destruction of Earth was an accident. You have maintained the fiction that humans are extinct except for a few scattered survivors. You have built your prosperity on the bones of our dead and convinced yourselves that it was necessary for galactic peace. Kyle gestured at the evidence still scrolling on the display. But humans are not extinct. We are not broken. We are not helpless. We spent 50 years becoming exactly what you taught us to become. We became survivors. Are you threatening this, Council? The Zephyrian delegate asked. I am informing this council, Kyle replied. The humans you thought you destroyed have been living among you for 5 decades. We know your secrets, your weaknesses, your plans. We know which of you ordered the attacks on our worlds, and which of you simply stood by and watched. He paused, letting his words sink in. The attacks on Chronarch facilities are just the beginning. Every species that participated in the genocide of humanity will face consequences. You can choose to face them honestly, or you can continue to pretend that we are harmless refugees who pose no threat to anyone. Kyle sat back down in his small chair, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. The alien delegates stared at him, finally understanding that the quiet human in the corner had never been as powerless as he appeared. "What happens now?" Speaker Morvex asked. Kyle smiled again. "Now you get to make a choice. You can acknowledge what you did to humanity and work toward making amends, or you can continue to deny it and face the consequences. But you cannot pretend anymore that we do not exist." He looked around the chamber one final time. "The galaxy is about to learn why no species should fear the one who survived Earth's fall. Because that survivor was never alone. And we never forgot what you took from us." 3 days after Kyle's revelation to the Galactic Council, the galaxy changed forever. It started with a transmission broadcast simultaneously across every major communication network. The signal was strong enough to override emergency channels, and appeared on screens from the core worlds to the Outer Rim territories. The face that appeared belonged to Lieutenant Commander Ray Phillips, a human the galaxy had never heard of. "People of the galaxy," Phillips said calmly. "My name is Ray Phillips and I speak for the human survivors of Earth's destruction 50 years ago. Today we stop hiding." Phillips was broadcasting from the bridge of what appeared to be a massive warship. Behind him, dozens of human crew, members worked at control stations that looked more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen. The ship's name was visible through the viewports: Phoenix Rising. "For 5 decades you believed humanity was extinct," Phillips continued. "You were wrong. For 5 decades you believed the few survivors were helpless refugees. You were wrong about that too. Today, we show you what 50 years of preparation looks like." Across the galaxy, humans began dropping their disguises. Vega Station. Dan Murphy stood up from his desk at the recycling plant and walked to the main control room. The Vegan authorities tried to stop him, but they discovered that every security system in the facility was under his control. Murphy activated hidden communication arrays that had been built into the recycling equipment over 15 years. "This is Vega Station Command," Murphy announced to his scattered people. "Phoenix Protocol is fully active. All units begin Phase 2 operations." On Altair Prime, translator Amy Peterson walked out of the Zephyrian Trade Commission building and climbed into a vehicle that was definitely not the civilian transport it appeared to be. Her Zephyrian husband watched in shock as armed humans emerged from buildings all around the government district. "Amy, what is happening?" he called after her. Amy turned back to look at him, and her expression was sad but determined. "I am sorry, Kelvex, I did love you, but I loved my dead world more." The vehicle lifted off, revealing advanced engines that had been hidden beneath ordinary-looking panels. It joined a formation of similar craft that appeared from hiding places throughout the city. On the Deep Space Research Station Omega-7, Chief Engineer Nicole Brooks walked onto the main bridge and calmly announced that the facility was now under human control. The alien research staff found that all their security systems, life support, and communications were responding only to Brooks' commands. "Do not be alarmed," Brooks told the confused scientists. "You will not be harmed. But this station contains technology that was stolen from human colonies. We are taking it back." Similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. Humans who had spent decades in ordinary jobs suddenly revealed access to hidden equipment, secret communications, and military training that should not have existed. They moved with coordination that spoke of years of planning and preparation. But the most shocking revelation came from Captain Jake Wilson. Wilson had been working security for Chronarch Military Industries for 12 years. His job was protecting their most classified research facilities. What the Chronarch never realized was that Wilson had been systematically documenting every project, every weapon, every tactical plan they developed. When Phoenix Protocol activated, Wilson did not attack the facility where he worked. Instead, he walked into the main conference room where the Chronarch Board of Directors was meeting and placed a data chip on the table. "Gentlemen," Wilson said politely, This chip contains complete technical specifications for every weapon system you have developed in the past decade. It also contains the locations of your hidden military bases, your strategic defense plans, and the personal files of every officer in your command structure. The Chronarch directors stared at him in horror. I have just transmitted copies of this information to every major news network in the galaxy, Wilson continued. Your military secrets are no longer secret. Your hidden bases are no longer hidden. Your tactical advantages no longer exist. Wilson walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and your private research facility on Kepler 442? The one where you are developing planet-killing weapons? My colleagues are shutting it down as we speak. Across the galaxy, similar revelations were happening simultaneously. Steve Adams, who had been coordinating shipping schedules for the largest freight company in known space, revealed that he had been tracking every military shipment and troop movement for 20 years. Tony Rodriguez, the maintenance worker who serviced life support systems, had installed monitoring devices on 37 different worlds. The galaxy discovered that humans had been everywhere, watching everything for 5 decades. But the most terrifying moment came when the true scope of human military capability was revealed. Ships began appearing in star systems across the galaxy. Not small scout vessels or converted cargo haulers, but purpose-built warships with technology that was clearly decades ahead of anything the major powers possessed. The ships moved in perfect formation and demonstrated capabilities that seemed impossible. Captain Nicole Brooks commanded a battle group that appeared near Zephyr Prime. Her ships disabled every orbital defense platform around the planet in less than 10 minutes, but they did it without firing a single shot. Instead, they used some kind of electromagnetic pulse that shut down electronics without causing permanent damage. People of Zephyr Prime, Brooks broadcast to the planet below. Your defenses are offline, but you are not under attack. We are here to demonstrate a simple truth. We could destroy you as easily as you destroyed us. But we choose not to. The same scene played out at Altair, at the Chronarch homeworld, at every major military installation belonging to species that had participated in Earth's destruction. Human forces appeared, demonstrated overwhelming superiority, and then withdrew without causing casualties. The message was clear. Humanity had spent 50 years not just surviving, but preparing for this moment. Kyle Martinez watched the broadcasts from his apartment on Nexus Prime. The Galactic Council had been in emergency session for 3 days, but they were no longer debating whether humans were a threat. They were trying to figure out how to negotiate with a species that had just proven they could paralyze galactic civilization whenever they chose. His datapad chimed with a message from Lisa Carter. Phase 2 complete. All targets neutralized. Without casualties. Ready for Phase 3 on your command. Kyle looked out his window at the city below. Alien civilians were going about their daily lives, probably unaware that their entire way of life had just been turned upside down. They thought they lived in a galaxy where they were the dominant species, where humans were extinct curiosities. They were about to learn how wrong they had been about everything. Kyle typed his reply. Proceed to Phase 3. It is time for the galaxy to understand what justice looks like. 1 month after the Phoenix Rising broadcast, Kyle Martinez stood before the Galactic Council for the last time as a refugee. The chamber looked different now. Half the seats were empty because their occupants were dealing with crisis situations on their homeworlds. The remaining delegates watched Kyle with a mixture of fear and respect that had not existed before. The human delegation requests permission to address the council, Kyle said formally. Speaker Morvex nodded slowly. The old arrogance was gone from his voice. Permission granted, Ambassador Martinez. Kyle noticed the title change. He was no longer just a representative of scattered colonies. He was an ambassador of a power that had proven itself capable of bringing the galaxy to its knees. The human survivors present the following terms to this council, Kyle began. He activated his datapad, and detailed proposals appeared on the main holographic display. First, all species that participated in the destruction of Earth and human colonies will provide complete documentation of their crimes. No more lies about accidents or necessary military actions. The galaxy will know the truth about what happened 50 years ago. The Zephyrian delegate shifted uncomfortably. Our government files from that period are classified. Your government files from that period are already in our possession, Kyle replied calmly. We are offering you the chance to reveal them voluntarily. The alternative is that we reveal them for you. Second, Kyle continued, reparations will be paid to human survivors for the destruction of our worlds and the murder of our people. These reparations will take the form of territory, resources, and technology transfers. General Thax leaned forward. What territory are you demanding? The Kepler 442 system, which your people stripped of resources after driving out human colonists. The Ross 128 system, where your ships destroyed civilian evacuation vessels. And the Sol system, where Earth once existed. The Sol system is dead space, protested the Altarian delegate. There is nothing left there. There is the memory of what was there, Kyle said quietly. And there will be something new there soon. We are building new Earth on the fourth planet, the one you used to call Mars. The chamber fell silent. The idea of humans rebuilding in their original system sent a clear message about their intentions. Third, Kyle continued, all human survivors currently living throughout the galaxy will be given the choice to remain where they are or relocate to human territory. Those who choose to stay will no longer hide their identities, no more pretending to be helpless refugees. And if we refuse these terms? Asked the Vextai representative. Kyle looked at the insect-like being with cold eyes. Then you will discover why no species should fear the one who survived Earth's fall, when that survivor is no longer interested in justice. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Everyone in the chamber understood what Kyle was saying. Humanity had demonstrated restraint so far, but that restraint was a choice, not a weakness. How do we know you will honor any agreement we make? General Thax demanded. You have been lying to us for 50 years. We have been surviving for 50 years, Kyle corrected. Everything we did was necessary to reach this moment, but now we offer you something we never had. A choice. Kyle gestured to the display, which now showed images from across the galaxy. Human settlements being built on new worlds. Human children playing in schools that did not exist a month ago. Human families reuniting after decades of separation. We are not asking you to love us, Kyle said. We are not asking you to welcome us. We are asking you to acknowledge what you did and help us build something better from the ashes of what you destroyed. The next 3 hours were filled with debate, argument, and negotiation. Some species wanted to fight. The Chronarch Empire mobilized their military forces, confident that their superior numbers would overcome human technology. They learned otherwise when their entire fleet was disabled by weapons that did not appear on any scanner. Captain Nicole Brooks delivered the message personally to the Chronarch High Command. Your ships are intact, your crews are alive, and your weapons are temporarily offline. This is what mercy looks like. Do not make us show you what justice looks like. Other species chose negotiation. The Altarians offered territory and resources in exchange for guarantees that humans would not reveal certain classified information about their government. The Zephyrians agreed to pay reparations and provide technology transfers. But the most important moment came when the Vextai delegate asked a simple question. Why did you choose justice over revenge? You could have destroyed us all. Kyle was quiet for a long moment before answering. Because destroying you would make us like you. 50 years ago, you decided that genocide was an acceptable solution to a problem. We refuse to become the kind of people who think that way. Then what kind of people are you? The delegate asked. We are the kind of people who remember everything, forgive very little, but believe that even monsters can choose to be better. Kyle looked around the chamber. We are survivors, and survivors understand that burning down the galaxy would leave us with nothing but ashes to rule over. 6 months later, Kyle stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, orbiting the planet that would become New Earth. Through the viewport, he could see construction ships from a dozen different species working together to build the new, human homeworld. It was not the Earth that had been destroyed, Nothing could bring back the billions who had died or the world that had been lost. But it was something new, something that represented hope instead of just memory. Lisa Carter joined him at the viewport. "Any regrets?" she asked. Kyle thought. About the question. About which part? Spending 50 years pretending to be helpless? Revealing the truth to the galaxy? Choosing justice over revenge? About giving them a choice instead of just taking what we wanted. Kyle watched a Zephyrian construction ship carefully position a habitat module in orbit. The same species that had helped destroy Earth was now helping to build its replacement. "No regrets," Kyle said finally. "We could have ruled the galaxy through fear, but fear makes people desperate. And desperate people do stupid things. This way is better." "Even after everything they did to us," Kyle nodded. "Especially after everything they did to us. They taught us that might makes right and the strong prey on the weak. But they also taught us what we never want to become." He turned away from the viewport and walked toward the station's command center, where humans and aliens worked side by side on the New Earth project. "The galaxy understands now why no species should fear the one who survived Earth's fall," Kyle said, "because that survivor learned that the greatest strength is knowing when not to use your power. And that is a lesson this galaxy needed to learn."